Thanks for joining us. My name is Robert Elias, and I am the incoming president of the Jewish Community Foundation. This afternoon, we have the great opportunity to listen to Arlene Schiff, who is the National Director of Life and Legacy with the Harold Grinspoon Foundation. Arlene's also a renowned expert on legacy giving, so feel free to write your questions down and ask them later. Arlene has generously offered her time today to give an informative overview of legacy giving and building your organization's legacy giving program. Thank you, Arlene, on behalf of all of us at the JCF and participating organizations. Before handing it over to Arlene, I'd just like to remind everybody of the incredible success in growing legacy gifts that we've experienced here in South Jersey. Our community joined Life and Legacy in 2014. To date, our community has secured over 600 letters of intent by community members who intend to leave a legacy gift. In all, 22 local Jewish organizations have received at least one letter of intent. For these letters of intent, donors have made 884 legacy commitments in total, which ranks our community at the top of the charts compared to more than 70 participating communities across North America. Congratulations to everybody. Furthermore, donors have committed an estimated $22 million in future expected endowment assets to benefit our Jewish community's future, with several $100,000 in legacy gifts received thus far. Without the hard work and devotion to promoting legacy giving by legacy team members like yourselves who talk with prospective donors, these phenomenal results would not be possible. Thank you for your tireless efforts to encourage legacy giving and for making this community's Jewish future even brighter. Lastly, feel free to contact Mike or myself or any member of the JCF with any questions you may have about legacy giving following the presentation. And let's welcome Arlene Schiff.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you again. I hope this will be more of a conversation than just me talking. But before we get started, it would be really helpful to me if we could go around and people could say which organization you're from and what your role is. If you're a lay leader or professional, that would just help me get a sense of who's in the room. So I'll start with Jocelyn, and then Jocelyn, you can, after you say your thing, pick someone else on the screen.
Okay. I'm a lay leader. I'm the current chair of the endowment committee for Congregation Bethel in Voorhees. And this has some synergy with what I do professionally. I'm a trust and estate lawyer. So I have an interest in helping Bethel build its endowment.
Great, thank you.
And I'm gonna pass, I'm going around the square. I see Susan Baskes is kind of the next one around.
Hi, I'm Susan Baskes, and I'm representing Temple Beth Shalom in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I'm a past president of Temple Beth Shalom, and I'm currently chairing the Life and Legacy program at our synagogue. And we've had a really good start, and we have optimism for its growth. And I know you're going to help us with some suggestions.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and I will pass it to Sidria.
Hi, I am the immediate past president of JCF. Been involved in Life and Legacy kind of beginning. And I'll pass it to the person. We have any more volunteer people here?
Okay, anyone that hasn't spoken yet.
Right. But I don't see, I was going to do the volunteers first. So the person to my right is David Snyder. So I'll pass it to him.
Yeah, so we've been, with legacy to the so
they can't introduce themselves, but we have Leah and Sarah on the call as well from the Federation Development Team. And I asked them to join us because we're really here to help all of you. Our attitude and our mindset is we want every organization, every synagogue, agency, federation to succeed in this. So Leah is one of our chief development staff officers. I don't know, it's a very important title, but an important person within the field. And Martha just joined, and Sarah is our donor support specialist. So again, we have resources here within the Federation system to assist JCF as well as the program moves forward.
Great, thank you for that. Leah and Sarah, do you want to share anything, or so we just move on to the other people?
You can, yeah, no, David's introduction was fine. It's like, I would just add, like, again, we are kind of in the fundraising for today business for annual campaign and needs at Federation and the agencies, but always keeping part of our conversations, future endowments and legacy work. So very interested in helping the conversation.
Hi, Martha, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So I don't know if Diane or Paul want to introduce yourself and say what organization you're from. Otherwise, Eileen, do you want to share where you're from?
Yeah, I'm Eileen Elias. I am the chair of the Life and Legacy Committee for Congregation McCourt Shalom in Cherry Hill.
Yeah, I'm a congregation B'nai Tikva Beth Israel.
Great, thank you. I recognize you. Nice to see you again.
Okay, my name is Diane on the screen, but this is Art Shapiro.
Yes, Art, I recognize you. Nice to see you again.
Same here.
All right, Paul, you said something already. Great. So everybody, I think, has spoken. And I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to encourage you to, if you have a question, we're a small enough group, so actually I think we can, you can just stop and ask me. But if you want, otherwise you can type it in the chat and Mike will monitor the chat and this is a Legacy 101, so we're going to cover everything, and we're going to try to do it in an hour, so that's a lot. But again, I can stay on if people have questions, or if you want to stop me at a specific point, we can focus on that. So basically, we're going to talk about how you have the conversations, how you move a donor from the letter of intent to a formalized, legally put in place gift, the importance of continuing to market, why we want to keep your donor stewardship going. I know you were doing great while I was there with you all those 4 years. I'm hoping you've continued to steward your donors and been implementing your stewardship plan. Even during COVID, it's as important as ever. And then we'll provide you access to additional resources. So basically, everything you need to figure out how to do this and move your initiative forward. And I just wanted to sort of show you, and we'll send the slides to you after, so you don't have to take notes if you don't want to. I just wanted to show you that we're still here supporting you, even though you've completed the 4-year curriculum. You have myself as a resource, you have the foundation as a resource, you have Mike, who's serving as the consultant now, as the coordinator now, I'm your consultant. So we're all there to help you in any way that we can. And just to let you know, we're finishing up an evaluation process. Thank you to those organizations who participated in our survey. And we're going to be coming out with some new supports for you in 2022 to help you further your legacy initiative. And so more on that when we have a concrete proposal in place. So again, just to let you know, you were in cohort 2. So you were one of the first 14. We're now in 72 communities across North America, about 750 Jewish organizations. And as of June, we had over 32,000 legacy commitments with an estimated value of over $1.2 billion in future gifts, of which 134 million has already been placed in organizational endowments. So for those of you who remember at the beginning, I talked about Harold and he loves a high return on investment. So to date, we've invested 21 million and that has resulted in 134 million in the bank and hopefully 1.2 billion at some point.
Recording in progress.
So again, why are we doing this? Really because endowments are no longer a luxury. They really need to be part of everybody's long-term financial stability strategy. So I know many of you know that because you've been doing it for a while, but for those who are new, just a reminder. And again, a reminder that philanthropic advisors have suggested that 20% of your operating budget be coming from your endowment by 2030. So you can think about where, what your current operating budget is, what 20% of that would be, multiply that by 20, and that would be the size of the endowment that you would be aiming for. We might not all make it by 2030, but it's a goal to strive for in order to ensure our financial stability. And again, just some more why now. There is this $59 trillion transfer of wealth taking place. Harold saw that universities and hospitals and arts organizations and others were asking, but the Jewish community wasn't. And so he said, what do I need to do to encourage the Jewish community to start having these conversations? Because this transfer of wealth is going to help us maintain the vibrant Jewish community that we have and really secure the future for the next generation. So I know many of you have been doing this for a while. If anyone's new on the call, this is why we want to do this. We don't want to wait any longer. We want to capture that transfer of wealth. So really, you have the power to secure the Jewish future. And again, I'm not going to ask because most of you have been doing this for a while. I know why you're motivated. But if anyone's new, really thinking about what motivated you to join the team, why is it that you've chosen to give your time and energy specifically to this effort? Because that you're going to need to share that story with donors as well. They're going to want to know why you chose to leave a legacy, why you're asking them to leave a legacy. What is it about the same connection you have to an organization that they have that has caused you to spend your time this way? And just a reminder of some of the motivators, the reasons that people leave a legacy. The first two, a commitment to being Jewish and a desire to live up to values instilled by parents and grandparents, were the top two choices of reasons that individuals who had already made a legacy commitment gave when they were asked this question. But we know that there are a variety of other reasons that people leave a legacy. And what we want to find out through our conversations with them is what's their story, what's motivating them to give to you annually, to be a loyal donor to you, and now to take this next step and leave a legacy. So who knows why the number one reason people don't give? Feel free to unmute and answer.
I can tell you why people don't respond to life and legacy requests, and it's that they think there won't be enough for their children. That's the feedback I get.
Okay, so we'll address that in a minute, but anybody know why people don't give in general?
I assume because they're not asked.
Exactly.
I had my hand up with that exact answer.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I can't see everybody on my screen. So next time, just shout it out. But
I got it. Next time.
Senior development officer. I finally got the title correct.
Congratulations to everyone who knew. And who wants to guess the percentage of donors who make a legacy gift because they were asked? Anybody want to take a guess?
25.
Nope. National Committee on Planned Giving found 70%. I actually think In our program, it's been higher than that, but 70% is still a great average, even if that's where we're at. So you need to ask, you need to have the conversations. We're not going to get legacy gifts without having the conversations. And there's a good chance you'll get them to leave a commitment, or at least you'll plant the seed, and they might not do it right away, and they'll think about it and they'll do it at a future time. And Jocelyn, I will get to your question or your reason a little later. So the beautiful thing about legacy giving is it gives everybody the opportunity to be a philanthropist, right? Anyone of any age. The majority of our gifts come from people 50 to 75, but we have individuals as young as 30, 35, all the way up to over 100 leaving legacies. It's a great opportunity for those who are loyal donors, loyal members, volunteers, long-term staff who are very passionate about an organization, anyone who's been deeply impacted. This is not a program to bring in the unaffiliated. It's really an initiative that deepens the connection that current donors already have with you. So we're going to move into the conversation, which is really the basis of everything. So just a reminder that we need to go into these conversations, remembering that we're giving donors an opportunity to do something significant during their lifetime that they probably never thought of. We can't go into this with the mindset that we're asking someone to do something when they're dead. It's really about life, right? That's why it's called life and legacy, something that they can do during their lifetime that will have a significant impact on the future, that doesn't require them to take money out of their current assets, but assets that they will have to give away in the future. And just a reminder, most people, 3% of their assets are in cash and liquid and able to be used now, and 97% are going to be available after their lifetime. So many of us will have more money to give away after. I had a conversation yesterday with Diane Trotterman, who's Harold's wife, and she was telling me how she much prefers to give endowment money now. And I said, that's beautiful and that's wonderful. And you're blessed to have the capacity, but not all of us, including myself. I don't feel like I have the capacity right now to endow my lion, but I will have the capacity to do that when I pass on. So for those who have the cash today, it's great if they want to give you their endowment gift today, but for most people, it's going to be an after lifetime gift. So COVID, in some ways, was very good for legacy giving because people started thinking about their mortality. People began making plans. A lot more people started writing wills once the pandemic started than have been doing so before. People are thinking about what's important in their life. They have new appreciation for your work because you've kept things going despite the pandemic. And we also know that those organizations who had an endowment had a much easier time financially getting through the pandemic than those that didn't. And so those are just reasons that why it's still a good time to have these conversations. Now, when I was in your community working with you, I was always promoting face-to-face, in-person conversations. And we know that in many cases that is not possible now. So legacy conversations are taking place over Zoom, over FaceTime, over the phone if people aren't comfortable doing them in person. If you are hesitant to just pick up the phone and make a cold call, we have an email template we can share with you that you could send to someone to break the ice that then says, I'll be following up with a phone call in a few days. Hopefully things will, maybe not now, but hopefully by the spring, we'll be in a better place and we can get back to face-to-face. But either way, some people for a long time won't be comfortable meeting in person again, and we just need to be prepared to do the conversations in a variety of ways. So all of you fundraisers know that great conversations happen when the right person is asking for the right gift at the right time. And when the conversation focuses on the donor and not what our organization needs, that it's all about finding out the donor's connection to the organization and what they value about it and the impact that they would like to have. So when you're setting up the appointment, whether it's on the phone or you bump into someone at the JCC or at synagogue or at the grocery store, you want to make sure you smile, because that even comes through on the phone. Your attitude comes through on the phone. You want to thank them for your commitment to the organization. You want to tell them why you're calling. And then you want to arrange a time to either meet or Zoom or have another conversation. So the conversation could possibly go something like this. Hi, Alana, this is Arlene from Temple ABC. How are you? And Alana says, hi, Arlene, I'm fine. And then I would say, Alana, I'm calling because you've been a longtime member of Temple ABC, and I want to share with you some of the new things that are going on. Might we be able to schedule a Zoom for next week? And Alana will say, oh, can't you just tell me over the phone? I don't want to meet. I'm very busy. And so, as the legacy team member, I would say, well, for the same reasons that you care so much about Temple ABC, we're working to build our endowment so we have resources to continue our work long into the future. And then the prospect might say, well, I'm really tapped out right now. I'm unable to contribute any additional money. And then I would respond with, Alana, participation in this effort doesn't require you to give any money now or in the near future, but it does provide you with the opportunity to have a real impact on the future of our Jewish community. And I wouldn't be calling you if I didn't think this was something that you would want to be a part of. Is there a time and a place next week that is convenient for you? So even though she pushed back and said, I don't have time, could we just do it? You still want to try to make another appointment to do it so that both of you are in the right headspace. If it gets to that point where she just keeps pushing and you're prepared to have the conversation right away, you could try doing it over the phone, but it's much easier to do it if you can see the person, even if it's on Zoom, because then you can read their body language. So when it's time to have the conversation, you want to open it with the schmoozing that we usually do and checking in, how are people? We're going to listen to their connection to your organization. We're going to invite them to join. We're going to respond no matter what they say. And then we're going to thank and document and report back to our team so everybody knows what's happening with that donor as well as our other prospects. So first, as I said, you're going to create a space of warmth and easy conversation. Thank them for their past support, chit chat, whatever you need to do to get comfortable knowing that you're leaving something else and coming to this conversation, and they were just doing something else and coming to the conversation. And so you want to make sure that you have some time for everybody to just focus and get in their headspace and focus on that conversation. And then we want to lead with some questions that get them talking. Really, during this conversation, we want the donor to talk 80% of the time. We only want to do a little bit of the talking. So really our role here is to ask the questions that will get them to share more about their story. So you might start with what led you to make your first gift to JFS or the JCC or the JCRC, or what led you to be become a member of the synagogue, or why do you sit in the same seat every year at the high holidays? Whatever you know about the donor that can get that conversation started. If it's a member, say, of the JCC, it might be what moved you to be such a loyal member. So what led you to give your first gift, and why, what is it about this place that you continue to give, you continue to be a member? And then what is the most meaningful experience you have had through your association with us? I remember when I was there, I think the J had a swim class for people with Parkinson's disease, and that, those people, that was really important to them that class continue to exist, and understanding that and then being able to give them a way to make that possible for future people is a beautiful thing. What is it we do that you'd like to see continue long into the future? And then really to get them to talk about, when you think about having a vibrant New Jersey, Southern New Jersey Jewish community 40 years from now, what do you envision? What do you hope to see? Knowing that Jewish life is evolving, but if you could dream, what would you want to happen? And then as they're talking, at some point, you're going to hear something that you can connect to your story. So yes, I feel the same way about the synagogue. That's why I've been a member for 35 years. I really like the sense of community that we have here. I'm really drawn to it because of the social action activities that are available to me. And that's led me to make a legacy. That's why I decided to leave a legacy. So you want to share your story, but you want it to be short. Again, you don't want to do the majority of the talking, compelling, but also true. You don't want to be making up stories. You want it to really be true about what your connection is. And then you want to invite them to join you. So will you join me in making a legacy commitment to Makor Shalom Synagogue and all the other Jewish organizations in the Southern New Jersey region that you value? Because again, we're doing this on a community-wide basis. And we want to encourage donors to leave a legacy to more than one organization, because we know to have a vibrant Jewish community, we can't just have one synagogue that's strong or one day school or just the Federation. We need all the organizations that make up the fabric of your community to be strong and to continue to be strong long into the future. So when you ask this question, you really want to be quiet and give people time to think. So sometimes that's hard for many of us to just sit and be quiet. So you could take a drink of water, give people some time, or you can count to 20 in your head. Really, you don't want to rush the conversation. You want to let them think about it and give you an answer. And then we have to be prepared to respond in any way. So before I get into the responses, let me stop here and ask if anybody has any questions about this part of the conversation. Feel free to unmute and ask if you do.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah. What was the average age range you said in the very beginning?
The majority of our gifts are coming from people 50 to 75.
Is there any suggestion or attempt to go down to lower ages, like people in the 30s and 40s?
We do. We have plenty of, actually, when you look at our numbers, it's a perfect bell curve. So we do have commitments from people in their 40s and over 75. That 50 to 75 just happens to be the sweet spot where the majority of commitments come. But yes, definitely, we encourage you. We don't encourage you to talk to people much younger than 40, just because they're just starting out. Though we do have people who in their 30s who've left commitments, but we hope they live to 120, right? So that's a long time to wait for a gift. So I would say usually most conversations start with people around the age of 40.
Thanks.
But if somebody comes up and says, I want to leave a legacy, and they're in their 30s and they want to leave you a percentage of their IRA, that's a great way to get them involved.
What do you say to people who have new members, have just joined the synagogue? They really don't have a long commitment at this point. For all we know, they could be there just for a few years because their kids are being b'nai mitzvah or something. So,
right. So
do you go after them?
We define loyal donors as people who've been giving to you or been connected to you for 5 or more years. So we wouldn't necessarily speak to somebody who's a new member. Now, obviously that I say that, but if they're there for the b'nai mitzvah and that b'nai mitzvah was a transformative experience for their family, you might drop the hint that if if they wanted to make those experiences available to other people in the future, they could leave a legacy. But for the most part, I would wait 3 to 5 years. I wouldn't talk to anyone before 3 years, and mostly we say loyal is 5 years. Any other questions? Okay, so let's move on to the responses because we have to be prepared. People may say yes, they may say no, they may say already done, or as Jocelyn pointed out, they may say no and tell you why they're telling you no. So hopefully people are saying yes. In the beginning, we were running into people who we were having legacy conversations with in your community who said, oh, I already did it. I just never told you because you never asked. I suspect now that we've discovered all those people, and now our goal is to encourage new people to give. But it's possible that you'll still find someone who's done it and they just didn't tell you. So you might discover them. So obviously, if they say yes, we want to congratulate them, encourage them to sign the declaration of intent form, encourage them to possibly leave a legacy to more than just your organization if they've only left it to yours. And then, obviously thank them and start stewarding them. We recommend you send a handwritten thank you note once somebody signs the declaration of intent form. Someone may say, let me think about it. Again, for some people, we would hope that being that you've been doing this for 7 years plus, that it's integrated into the culture, but there's still possibly people who don't know what it is or can't wrap their head around the concept. So I would thank them for their current support, ask if there's any more information that you can provide them, ask if it's okay if you follow up with them, and I would give a specific time frame. Is it okay if I call you in 2 weeks or 2 months? Or, again, if they say, well, I can't really think about this right now, I'm dealing with X, Y, or Z, then you might have a longer time frame. So through the conversation, you'll figure out what's a good time frame in which to ask if it's okay to call them back. You don't want them to say, oh, I'll get back to you, because then you can't do anything. You have to just wait. But if you say, is it okay if I call you in a month? And they say, okay, then you know that, yeah, it's okay to call them. You're not harassing them. They still may not have done anything, but they're giving you permission to be in touch with them again. And I would definitely send them a note, thank them for meeting with you, and reiterate in that note that you'll be calling them again or in a couple of weeks or whatever the time frame is, so that you remind them that it's still on your radar. And then you may get people who just say no. As Jocelyn said, people are saying no because they're afraid they don't have enough money. And we just need to acknowledge and accept that. Depending on the reason, you may ask, if it's no, I'm not going to do that because something's going on right now or whatever. You might say, is it okay to follow up with you in 6 months or next year? So, if it's just a temporary thing that's causing them to say no now. But if it's something, as Jocelyn said, where they say, I'm afraid I'm going to outlive my money, then we have some responses for that. In that case, Jocelyn, using an IRA is a great way for them to make a commitment. They can put you in their IRA or the retirement plan for some percentage. And if they use it all, if they need that money to live, they take it out, they're required to take it out for their required minimum distribution, and they need to live on it, then there might be nothing left. But in many cases, people don't necessarily use up all their retirement funds, and there'll be something left. So that's one way to encourage people, because that is a gift that fluctuates with how much money they have in their retirement account. Unlike if they put, I'll give you, 10,000 in their will, then they're committed to 10,000, but if they say, I'll give you 5% of what's remaining in my retirement account and the other 95% is going to my family, then whatever that 5% is, that's what the gift. So again, when people are afraid of running out of money, an IRA is a nice way that they can make that commitment. I think I have some other responses or ways to respond further on in the presentation. But if they say no, you want to acknowledge and accept it. You want to try to make a time when you can follow up with them. If it's a short term, if you think it's a short term no, if it's just they're not interested, so be it. Thank them for their time. Send them a personal note. Thank them for meeting with you. And don't take it personally. It's not a reflection on you. It's not a reflection even on the organization. It's just that for some people, this is a big concept and it takes time to wrap their head around it. So you want to look at it as you're planting seeds for the future. And I know even in your community, we have people who are asked in year 1, in year 2, in year 3, and they said no, no, no. And then in year 4, all of a sudden they decided it time to do it. They saw the other people who were doing it. Things came together for them. Maybe they finally went to their attorney and had a conversation. So again, don't get depressed. Don't take it personally. Just know that you planted the seed and that seed might blossom at another time. And so really look at the conversation as just another way to build a stronger relationship with that donor and to have an impact on them. After you have the conversation, again, you want to send that handwritten thank you note. You want to jot down any notes so you have them for the future. If you're going to be following up with them, you want to make sure that you put a note in your calendar. So you do that because you don't want to say, I'll call you in a month and then not call them. And then you also want to report back to your team. So let me see if the next, I guess I don't have the other responses in this presentation, but can other people share some of the responses you've had when you've asked people for commitments and they haven't been willing to sign on the dotted line right away?
Arlene, sometimes people ask how much do I need to give? Or what's the minimum gift? And, our response typically is there is no minimum. But, they could come back with $18 or $118 or something like that, which is not going to be enough money to set up an endowment.
Right.
But there might be I guess every organization should have a general endowment fund for gifts that are too small that would have to, that should go into a general fund.
Right. So when we were when you were actively getting incentive grants from us, the minimum was $1,000. But you really don't even want that. That's too small. It's not, obviously that would be a check that would go to the organization and they would have to put it in a general endowment fund. But the best thing to do is to have something in your back pocket to start with. So if you're a member of a synagogue, what would it take to endow your dues, right? So if it's a $2,000 dues, then 20 times that would be $40,000. So you might want to start there and say, I know you hate paying dues, but you know that the dues keep the synagogues going. And if you want to continue to pay your dues at the current level, an endowment of $40,000 will allow you to do that. That's the great thing about Lion of Judah, right? Like they are at the Federation, they're able to say, for $100,000, you can endow your Lion. So other organizations need to think about that. Now, you might say that and the person might say, oh my God, I can't do that. But at least then it's, well, would you consider 10,000 or 20,000 or, so you're talking about numbers that actually allow them to endow their current giving. I had a donor at my Federation, she used to give, I think, $10,000 a year. And then she left us an endowment of $8,000. And I I guess I missed the opportunity to really explain to her what it meant to endow her gift. And so, you know, for some people that would be even 10,000 would be too much, but it's a starting point. Or if you know somebody is passionate about sending kids to day school, well, what does it take to send a kid to day school for a year, or to endow, so a kid who starts in kindergarten can go through 12th grade? Those are the sort of things you want to have it in your back pocket. I don't necessarily recommend that you suggest a level of giving, but when they say, what do you have in mind? You want to be able to offer them something so that they know what it really means to endow, and you're not getting $100 or $500.
Arlene, what do you think of encouraging people to give a percentage? Because, you know, and it's usually at the death of the survivor of the two spouses is when they're ready to give, and they have to contend with their children. I feel like I've had success asking people to give a percentage of their estates, because that, just like you said, it grows or shrinks with whatever's left is what's left. And then you don't have to worry about, well, have I left enough for my kids? You're leaving your kid, if you give 4%, you're leaving your kids 96%. Will they really miss a percent?
Right. So yeah, that's a great, that's a
But
great,
it doesn't link it to anything like you were suggesting, which I think is an interesting way to approach it too.
Again, it depends on the donor, and it also depends on what you're comfortable. Like if you go to a donor and you just know, if you said it would cost $40,000 to endow their dues, they'd probably freak out. Then I would go with well, would you consider 5% of your estate? A lot of times a percentage of an estate is a lot bigger in many cases than people would normally give. Or the other option is, would you give us the remainder, right? Like, so give out everything else if you're, deciding that you're going to give to certain things, and give us what's left. I've also seen people say, I'm going to leave you 30% of my charitable gift group, whatever I'm leaving to charitable organizations, you'll get 30% of that. So yeah, that's a great way. And yes, many people who are in a relationship will do a second to die. So the gift only gets paid when the second person passes. But also there are couples where each individual will give a percentage of their IRA or a life insurance policy, or a gift gets paid before funds transfer. So again, you have to know the couple, and they have to decide what they're going to do. But a percentage after the passing of the second person is a great way to get people to leave a legacy. And as I said, a lot of times percentages are bigger than if someone gives a dollar amount. So you're aware that it's a two-step process that we're doing, right? So first we're getting people to sign the declaration of intent, to wrap their head around the concept of what legacy giving is. And it's really, they agree to they're making a promise for the future, but they haven't necessarily thought out what the specifics are. And then we give them the time frame in which they put on the declaration of intent, preferably a year or less, in which to figure out those specifics. And again, many of you know, when you go to talk to them about formalization, they haven't necessarily actually done that next step, but at least it gives you permission to talk to them. You're not harassing them because they said, give me 6 months, 9 months, a year, or whatever. And then we want to try to move them to actually legally put that gift in place, because if it's not legally in place, the letter of or the declaration of intent won't end up with you receiving a gift. And so then talking to them more specifically about different ways to give. So in the beginning, it's more about the why. We really just want to focus on the why. And then the second stage is the how, and helping them think through, or directing them to someone at the foundation or their own professional advisor to help them figure out what's the best way to legally formalize their gift. And we use the gift confirmation form, but other ways of providing your organization with confirmation is to get a letter from the professional advisor for them to give you a copy of the portion of their will or the trust, or a copy of the beneficiary form, whatever is most comfortable for them. And the different giving vehicles, I think everybody probably knows, but just a review. Again, they could leave you something in a will or a trust, such as like my will says, you know, I'm endowing my lion, and that gets paid before any of my assets get passed to my husband. So that's very specific, that it's to be paid upon my passing. Others will say, you know, second to die, then this gift will be made at that time. They can name you as a beneficiary of a retirement account or an IRA, an IRA or a 403B or whatever the variety of retirement accounts are. They can name you as a beneficiary of a life insurance policy if somebody purchased a policy when their kids are little and now their kids are grown and on their own, and the family won't need all that money. They might leave you 10% of a policy or something like that. So they can make you a beneficiary of the policy. They can also purchase, and this is mostly younger people, can purchase life insurance policies for somewhat lower cost because they're young and it's a lower risk for the insurance company. So some may do that, and that allows them to give you a larger gift than they might be able to agree to now or can envision in the future. And then you would become the owner of the policy. And there are different ways to do that. If someone wants to know, we can talk about that in more detail. There's other vehicles that provide people with income during their life. We don't have too many of those, but it is a possibility. And if someone was interested in that, we could put them in touch with the right person. And then obviously cash. If somebody wants to give you cash today, you want to take that and put it in your endowment, because that's the gift in your hand right away. So are there any questions on formalization? Right, I'm going to keep going. So marketing, it's important that you continue to market the concept of legacy giving. So I attribute it to like Israel's drip irrigation system, right? Drip by drip by drip by drip. People have to see it over and over and over again, and then it'll blossom at the right time. So, you know, if you have a newsletter, you want to have a dedicated space for legacy and you want to mix it up. Sometimes you want to list your legacy donors. Sometimes you want to share the story of one legacy donor. Sometimes you might write an article about one of the different ways someone can leave a legacy. Another time you might run an ad, and we have ads on our website that you're welcome to use. You can sometimes do a Facebook post of a donor testimonial. There's lots of different ways, and we really recommend that you integrate your legacy conversations into any other development work that you're doing. So if you're doing an annual campaign ask, you could put a PS at the bottom that encourages people to also leave a legacy. If you have a pledge form for Yom Kippur, say a Yom Kippur appeal, you can have a place where people can put their annual gift and also a box to check off to leave a legacy. Ultimately, that's going to be the best way for you to integrate legacy giving into your culture, is to integrate the concept of legacy into the other things that you do. And then, of course, stewardship is the most important, because once someone formalizes their gift or even signing a declaration of intent, the more you steward them, the more likely they're going to move to formalization. And then once I formalize my gift, you want to make sure I don't change my mind and take it out of my estate plan. So making sure that I continually feel appreciated, you keep me engaged, you're sharing with me the difference you're having in the community. So I realize I made a good investment, and I keep my gift intact because I know that when you get it, I'm going to have an impact. That's really important. It's as important as getting the commitment is the formalization. And this is the diagram that you've seen many, many, many times. about the different ways that we recommend that you connect with donors over the year in terms of stewardship. So something they get in their home, we call it care, personal contact, listing their names, sharing their stories, inviting legacy donors to get together once a year to thank them for their commitment, to show them that they're special, and then honoring legacy donors at least once a year amongst your community, whatever that is, at an annual meeting, at a legacy Shabbat, at a holiday program, whatever works for your organization. So really, stewardship shows them that they matter. And we know that if people feel that they matter, they won't change their mind. They'll keep their gift intact. Even if they leave your community and they move to Florida, if you stay in touch with them and continue to show them that your organization is making a difference in the community, most people will retain their gifts. And our ultimate goal is through all of this, to continue to integrate legacy giving into your philanthropic culture. Most of you have done a wonderful job of this, and we want to make sure that it continues. And we want to make sure that when those of you on this call get tired of doing this, that there's someone else in your organization who's going to pick it up, that you have a succession plan for whose priority is it going to be to ensure that legacy giving remains as important to our organization as the annual giving, because the legacy giving is what's going to sustain you into the future. So I didn't know if we'd have any new team members, but this is what we usually say when we have new team members about welcome to the team. This is the link to our website where you can look at the resources that we have available to you. And that's my presentation. So I'm happy to answer any additional questions that people might have. I know it was a lot to throw at you all at once.
This slideshow, Arlene, is it available on that link?
No, but we will. I will send a PDF of it to Mike, and he can share it with you.
Okay, thank you, because I have other people that I might want to, and I also might want to review it before I hit the road again. And I want to apologize. I have a client call at 5, so I have to drop off.
Thank you for making.
Though.
Yep. Anybody else? I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody. Any other questions?
So Arlene, a question. What would you say is a good, I'll say, ratio for meeting in person? Is it, if it's a husband and wife, is it good to have 2 people meet with them, or?
I would definitely, when you make the appointment with one, if you were to call me, I would say, you might say to me, do you want Gary should Gary join you, or does it make sense for Gary to join you? So I would leave it up to the individual who you're speaking with, but you could offer that it could be a joint conversation.
And then
I think I saw a stat the other day. I was on a women's philanthropy call, and I think I saw a stat that said 75% of couples make charitable decisions together. So it does make sense.
Right.
And I know, Mike, you asked me about somebody who was concerned about securing legacy gifts while their congregation is considering possibly merging with another. And my suggestion is to hold off unless, it's a hard time when there's uncertainty to ask people about a legacy gift. So I might hold off and wait until you had a decision about what was working or what wasn't. The board might be willing to make gifts, but usually the general membership is a little skittish until they know. I mean, that happens even when the synagogue is changing rabbis, right? Because people don't know if they're going to stay if the rabbi changes, even though it might be the only conservative synagogue in the area. So sometimes at those transition times, I might put the legacy I would keep marketing the concept of legacy and keep stewarding the donors you have, but I might not ask new people until that transition takes place.
Any other questions? Arlene, thank you very much. Mike, thanks for arranging this.
My
Look
pleasure.
forward to hearing some stories about how successful people are. And please call the JCF if you have any questions.
Great.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see everybody again. Take care.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Arlene.
Thank you.
Thank everybody.
Thank you.